Welcome back. My name is Dr. Mamoon Najjar, and I am on a mission to help people live a life filled with meaning, impact, and fulfillment. Throughout my life, I have searched for the blueprint to a purposeful life. This search has led me to creating this YouTube series based on my book, The Drop That Contains the Ocean, An Intelligent Pursuit of Optimal Being. It is the product of years of study, practice, and personal experiences, which have allowed me to develop key principles that can help anyone create a life of contribution, success, and joy. Welcome to the second part of Chapter 6 of our journey. This chapter follows directly on from the previous video where we started to explore how we can gain the business tools for a fulfilling life. We will continue to look at how we can apply business concepts like Six Sigma, Kaizen, and foolproofing to various aspects of life. We will introduce tools for goal setting, efficiency, and continuous improvement to enhance fulfillment and effectiveness in both professional and personal realms. So let's sit back and relax as we continue on this journey. Regardless of the specific goal, Kaizen is designed to foolproof your process as much as possible. Standardize the process so that individual views and biases cannot appreciably alter the outcome. The Japanese have a similar term, poka-yoke, which means to identify and eliminate the causes of human error. This means avoiding scapegoating or blaming others and finding ways to prevent individuals from impeding the process. For example, if an alley behind a business has an inappropriate amount of trash on the ground, the solution is not to blame the people in that department. Instead, placing more trash cans in strategically defined places will solve the problem by removing human error. McDonald's famously has a foolproof system for ensuring that customers pay for their food before it is brought out from the back and served. Upon receiving payment, the cashier must press a button to release the food. The signal from this button registers immediately at McDonald's corporate headquarters in Illinois, confirming the payment and authorizing the release of the food. It's not difficult to understand the reasons for this and how human error has been eliminated. McDonald's is a significant business whose brand relies on producing food quickly and inexpensively. In that environment, human error can be easy to make. Cashiers tired after a long shift might send out a burger without collecting pay first. A changing shift might not know what stage the process is at. Peak periods may increase stress and exacerbate these tendencies. Having identified the problem and defined its parameters, McDonald's removed the human equation from its process. Regardless of the cashier's state of mind or the circumstances in the individual restaurant, the sandwich will not be released without payment. Over time, the system has been foolproofed. So, as we've discussed before, many of Six Sigma's components have actually been part of human behavior since, the dawn of civilization. This is especially true when it comes to foolproofing and the ways in which humans have learned to eliminate waste. Uthman ibn Affan, who was the third caliph of Islam, once pointed out that people respond to authority much more positively than if you leave them to their own moralities and convictions. He's talking about reliability here. If you simply leave people to their own way of thinking about how things should be done, you end up opening the process to individual interpretation and, honestly, individual error. Reliable methodology just carries more weight and, as a result, reduces the individual's ability to assert faulty methods. Now let's talk about value. Six Sigma is really a tool for producing a value or a certain level of quality. Its applications can be diversified just by changing the value you want to create and, presumably, the particular steps you take to produce it. But the overall goal always stays the same. The most essential thing about value is, honestly, its ability to last. Value is profitable, at least when we're talking about business. A great modern example of this can be seen in the way Toyota Corporation responded to the economic downturn of 2008 to 2010. Toyota always put a strong emphasis on brand value in their vehicles, which have a reputation for reliability and longevity. But that focus on value goes way beyond just the product itself. They also invested in reliable, easy-to-maintain and long-lasting production facilities and assembly line equipment. Meanwhile, the mainstream auto industry in the United States took a completely different approach. When the economy collapsed in 2008, it quickly reached bankruptcy. However, it was saved by a taxpayer bailout carried out by then-President Obama. Not long after that bailout, the industry had to make improvements, which forced it to change its business practices. At the same time, Toyota and other Japanese companies' more fuel-efficient, easy-to-maintain, and long-lasting cars performed better and didn't require extraordinary measures to address. Even though the loss of sales did affect them, they weren't on the brink of collapse because of the importance of quality that Toyota placed on its business as a whole. Let's look at another, much older example, which really shows just how long these ideas of value and quality have been around. Chapter 12 of the Quran tells the story of Prophet Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers when he was a child, and years later, when he held an important government position, his brothers came to him for help but didn't recognize him. He secretly taught his brothers some important lessons, and when he finally revealed his identity to them, he said, "I have bestowed his blessings upon us because there are those who are pious and patient. Then Allah will waste the reward of the do-gooders." In the same chapter, Allah talks about how he gave Joseph establishment on earth, meaning the power and influence of his kingdom in Egypt. We give our mercy for those whom we wish, and we do not ignore or miss the reward of the do-gooders. The story of Joseph really points to the same lesson that Toyota applied. That is, if things are done well, then the bigger picture will be improved. Doing things well encourages us to make it a habit in every part of our actions. We can make it our behavioral code in industry, in individual behavior, family values, society, organizations, corporations, and even nations. That's the ultimate goal of Six Sigma, no matter how we choose to apply it. Lean is another term that has a specific meaning in the business world, but if we use a more general definition, it really helps us apply it to other areas of life. Lean is all about the ability to avoid waste, and just like the other concepts we've talked about, it takes regular practice to use it correctly. Now, lean can sometimes be misused as an excuse to cut support for a goal down to the bare minimum. But honestly, those kinds of tactics are inefficient in the long run, because they end up creating way more inefficiency than they solve. The proper use of lean is very different. Once again, historical and cultural examples can really help us understand this idea and show us how it can be applied appropriately. Let's start with a quote from the Quran. "Children of Adam, enjoy life, dress well, eat and drink, but do not overdo things. The Lord does not like those who waste." There's a similar passage in chapter 6. "He is the one who provided you with all kinds of dwellings and gardens, both cultivated and wild, and palm trees, crops of different flavors, olives and pomegranates, similar in shape, but dissimilar in taste. Eat the fruit they bear and pay the dues at harvest, and waste not, because he does not like those who waste." The Christian Bible has similar quotes, notably Isaiah chapter 23 verse 18, "Yet her profit and her earnings will be set apart for the Lord, they will not be stored up or hoarded. Her profits will go to those who live before the Lord, for abundant food and fine clothes." There is a similar passage in Proverbs chapter 28 verse 22. "The stingy are eager to get rich, and are unaware that poverty awaits them." You know, theology is always subject to interpretation, but deliberate references to staying lean and eliminating waste are many centuries old. Now let's talk a bit about the intuitive brain and the calculating brain. My professional field is pulmonology, but during my time as a physician in medical school, I had a great interest in behavior, neuroanatomy, and neurophysiology. Perhaps because of the complexities of coupling to functions. The brain functions are coupled with physical areas, for example, areas for sensing like touch and vision, and for motor movements, feelings, emotions, thinking, and so on. The calculative brain is involved in logic, linear, and relational thinking, while the intuitive brain oversees the big picture. The intuitive brain may not perceive the details the way the calculative brain can, but it makes faster calculations and processes. The intuitive part of the brain has senses and feelings of more significant concepts and belongings. In her book, My Stroke of Insight, writer and neuroscientist Jill Bolte Taylor details her journey through a hemorrhaging stroke. The bleeding of the stroke was on the calculative areas, and she had severe limitations in her functions. When her calculative brain was silenced, the intuitive brain took over to a certain extent. Astonishingly enough, she felt a profound sense of peace, as if the intuitive brain only began working when the calculative brain was silenced. This is a well-established phenomenon. Logic, thinking, calculations, connecting relations, data analysis, understanding statistics, and other functions of the calculative brain are vital. But, they can also become limitations. Sometimes we can benefit from silencing them so that the more brilliant brain and the bigger picture brain, the spiritual brain, can take over. Techniques for enhancing intuitive brain activity exist. They can become invaluable tools for decision-making and thinking styles in many aspects of life with practice. In his book, The Power of Now, German-Canadian writer Eckhart Tolle cites specific ways of enhancing right-side activity. While he couches it spiritually, he's simply evoking neurological techniques to invoke more of the intuitive brain than the calculative brain. I encourage you to seek it out with that in mind. For our purposes here, I wish only to note some of the general goals of his techniques, many of which involve connecting our thoughts with the here and now, silencing the mind, and listening to the silence behind every noise, as Tolle says in his book, Stillness Speaks. The prayers of priests, nuns, and holy figures of every religion are often techniques for doing this. One can better impart the chosen value into right brain thinking by affirming specific chants and sayings. Physical movements such as ritualistic movements and the use of objects such as prayer beads have a similar neurological effect. Studies have been undertaken analyzing MRIs from nuns and priests in prayer. Such activities stimulate specific parts of the mind while leaving others essentially unused. When an MRI is taken for nuns and priests while praying, some areas of the brain don't get invoked or are not as active except during those times. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught an exciting tool for making big or difficult decisions. It's called istikhara, the prayer for seeking the best decision. The prayer goes like this: O Allah, I take goodness from your knowledge, power, and might. I seek strength and ask for your great blessings because you can or you have the power, and I do not or I cannot. You know everything and I know not. You know the unseen. O Allah, if you see this action or this decision, I intend to make it better for my religion and faith, for my life and end death, for here in this world and the hereafter. Then make it destined for me and make it easy for me and then add blessings in it for me. O Allah, if in your knowledge, you know this action is wrong for me, bad for my religion, faith, my life affairs, and this and hereafter and so on, then turn it away from me and turn me away from it, and whatever is better for me, ordain it or destine it for me, distance it from me and then make me satisfied. This simple tool invites exerting every physical and mental effort toward the goal, and then leaving the results to God, the ultimate cause-effect master and source of all intelligence. Professional sports figures sometimes practice similar rituals, which are often considered superstition. They will wear their uniform in a specific order or rely on gloves and other equipment they regard as lucky. Neurologically, the effects of such rituals are similar. They're designed to invoke the intelligent brain. This neurological crossover point shows how techniques, values, and purpose intermingle. Six Sigma is a purely technical discipline, as are many of its concepts, such as lean. By combining it with more spiritual thoughts and a basic neurological understanding of how our minds work, we can achieve more success and harmony holistically than we could with each component alone. Because of this, every effort we make in this life goes somewhere. It goes together because we are unified beings divided into different parts and sections. Our behavior as individuals amounts to who we are as human beings, and all of it is traveling to the same destination we are. If done well, it can lead to success and the spiritual peace and contentment we all strive for. These resources originated deep in history, the fabric of today's world and our individual lives. It is for us to adopt, adapt, and bundle it together to be better beings. So, to illustrate how systemic thinking, values, and methods can all come together to activate our right side brain, let's revisit a story told by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Imagine, for a moment, a ship sailing along a freshwater river, crewed by two different teams. One team is up on the deck while the other is down below in the bottom of the boat. Now, to decide who belongs to which team, they actually drew lots. Those who drew the short straw, well, they ended up assigned to the lower deck. The group below, of course, needs access to fresh water, so they frequently have to make their way up to the deck to draw water from the river. But, honestly, this process is inefficient and, yeah, it disrupts the workflow of both teams. The ship's crew could try to solve this problem in several ways, but there's really only one approach that uses true systemic thinking and allows the whole boat to thrive. If the upper deck crew decides that getting fresh water for those below isn't their problem, and, bans them from coming up to the deck, then the folks below are going to make a hole in the ship just to get fresh water. And if that happens, well, the entire ship sinks. Alternatively, the upper deck might try to apply moral and religious principles to the issue, allowing the lower deck to keep coming up for water. This does address the ethical side of things, but it still leaves the main problem unsolved, and the ship just can't operate as effectively as it could. However, by combining a moral value that everyone on board needs fresh water, with a redistribution of resources and an analysis of where the inefficiencies lie, they can devise an optimum solution. Gathering fresh water is much easier and less time-consuming for those on the upper decks. They can collect water and send it down to the lower decks, incorporating it into their work schedules and leaving plenty of time for their other duties. Thus, the whole ship prospers, and a minimal sacrifice from one translates into tangible benefits for all. This is a simple parable, yet it hints at the complexities of combining purpose, method, and habit into efficiency and moral value. To further demonstrate how such problems can be approached in the real world, imagine there is a factory in a small town that acts as the town's leading employer. It attracts a local workforce, businesses like restaurants appear, property values increase, and many other companies follow to take advantage of the boom. All of it is based on this factory. Therefore, what happens in this factory impacts the entire town. This factory incorporates everything we have discussed, viewing the big picture, focusing on intuitive thinking, and moving forward with everyone in mind instead of just one faction or another. It acts with the interests of the town in mind. This means management makes reasonable concessions, such as reliable healthcare and comfortable working conditions, and allows their workforce to voice their opinion, through an organized union or similar organization. This also means the union must operate within the same profitability parameters as the factory. It must either refrain from asking for what cannot be given, or make sacrifices to retain jobs and ensure the factory remains afloat. That means trust, transparency, and good faith bargaining on both sides. It means acknowledging shared realities together and working for a standard solution. Otherwise, the factory won't function, and the community will suffer. Perhaps management decides to increase mandatory hours to improve productivity, or the union demands a benefit that is neither necessary nor feasible. Whatever the reason, it stems from an inability to apply systemic thinking in the required fashion. This could lead to the factory closing and the start of a chain reaction. Businesses close, people go elsewhere looking for work, property values drop, crime increases, and the town collapses. In my work, we spend time and effort to ensure that doesn't happen. We refer to it as stitching. But it is the same kind of systemic thinking from Six Sigma, which connects the right goals and purposes with the right concepts, applying them over multiple locations, bringing various people with a broad array of skills into the equation in the right way, and so on. That leaves in place a system that no one party has any control over. This works for the benefit of all, and represents a transparent and viable investment of all the participants for the common good. Everyone owns it. It leads to a better product and a more satisfying path to reach it. It also includes right-sizing and determining the resources needed for each task. If a task requires 3 people, assign 3.5, not 5 or 2.5. This avoids redundancies and ensures that the people assigned to it do not burn out or have to juggle too many other projects. The same principle applies to knowledge and information. Withholding vital information is counterproductive, as is a lack of transparency in important decisions that affect the entire organization. However, it also provides too much information and clutters people's heads with unnecessary details. The business term is dark curtaining, and while it must be applied carefully, it can be invaluable in ensuring a productive flow of information. All of it returns once again to this book's core concepts. Everything is interrelated, and your personal choices impact the big picture. It all goes somewhere, and everyone you are involved with goes along. That can encompass the entire planet if you take that to its logical conclusion. In conclusion, we carefully shape our life mission, ensuring it aligns with our purpose. Along the way, we develop skills and concepts that build upon the foundation and take us further, such as improving quality and reducing waste. Our learning is interdisciplinary, crossing over from business into our personal lives. The intangible aspects of our knowledge acquisition, such as memory and intuition, broaden our vision of reality and enable us to keep an open mind and have a peripheral vision. We can shuffle these skills between all the sections of our lives as needed. We learn from our careers and apply these learnings to family life and vice versa. With a strong foundation, we can eliminate barriers to creating a fulfilling life. Thank you for joining me on the final part of Chapter 6. I hope you can take this time to reflect back on what we have gone over. To make things easier, here are some of my key takeaways from this part of the chapter. In the next video, we will start to explore Chapter 7 of my book, where we will reflect on what we have discussed so far, and use this to dive into the concepts of theology, practicality, and peace. Insha'Allah, we will see each other then. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل إن الله نعما يعظكم به إن الله كان سميعا بصيرا إن الله يأمركم